What is the future of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies? What are the challenges they face? What are the opportunities? And what is my prediction? That is the subject of this video. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Financial Fast Lane. My name is Martinsen. Today we're talking about Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and my prediction for the future. Now, recently I did a video on inflation and how to prepare. And in that video, I discussed the different types of asset classes and how they perform in an inflationary environment. And I intentionally left out digital assets because it really is a unique and new asset class all to itself. And it needed its own video. And so that's what we're doing today. First off, cryptocurrencies is really not an accurate term because they're really not currencies. It'd be better just to say crypto or digital assets. And so at the most basic level, what is it? Bitcoin is based on new technology. So it's blockchain technology. In other words, it's software on a distributed public network. And it has the ability to store value. And so it really is innovative, and it's a new, entirely new thing. And it's making a big impact, right? It's too hard to ignore. 5% of the world's wealth is now in some form of crypto or digital assets. Bitcoin is about $2 trillion worth. So it's a very significant and something we cannot ignore. So some people love it. Some people hate it. So first, let's talk about some of the people who love it, all right? The reason why they love it, many of them, they don't trust the fiat currency. They look at the national debt and deficits and the devaluing or the weakening of the dollar and the fact that the dollar is controlled by a government. And so Bitcoin is a way to store value without any involvement of government. And it cannot be inflated artificially through printing and so forth. So that's one of the reasons, there's been so much printing of money through quantitative easing. And so our money supply has increased significantly, and that is what is causing inflation. And so this is one of the things why people start to look at alternatives such as commodities and gold. And many people refer to Bitcoin as digital gold. And I will explain why that's not the case, but it is a store of value, and it can be a hedge against inflation. Some of the more traditional financial advisors that are well known out in the world are starting to adopt it, and some of them have for several years now. For example, Rick Edelman, who's a fairly well-known and outspoken owner of a financial firm that has been around for many years with more of a traditional asset allocations, right? But he has become very much an advocate for Bitcoin and for crypto. And here are his predictions for 2022. He says he thinks that 1/3 of all Americans will own Bitcoin by the end of 2022. He believes that the SEC will approve a Bitcoin ETF, which they've been trying to do for several years now, and the SEC has not been willing to do so. That would be a huge thing because it's not easy for most people. For example, if you have an IRA or Roth IRA or 401k, it's not convenient or easy to own your crypto in those types of accounts unless you set it up specially for that purpose. But if an ETF comes out, you would very easily, right in your regular retirement accounts, be able to allocate some of your funds to Bitcoin or a whole variety of cryptos. So he thinks that's going to happen. I do not know if they will or won't. They might. He believes that tokens will skyrocket in 2022. So some of the advantages that Rick would say is diversification. And so there's an argument there where not all of your portfolio, but maybe just a small portion could be allocated into some cryptocurrencies because it's just uncorrelated with all the rest. It just creates more diversification. And if you have only a small holding, if it fails and goes to zero, it doesn't really harm you because you're well diversified. But if it does well, then it gives a good, significant boost to your portfolio. So that's kind of the argument of some of these more traditional financial advisors who are also promoting Bitcoin. And you have people like Elon Musk. He said, I am invested in Bitcoin and I want to see it succeed. And you have Matt Damon out doing commercials. I don't know if you've seen his commercial, Fortune Favors the Brave, talking about kind of investing into Bitcoin and other cryptos. And it's using the European spelling there. So what are some of the cons, right? Who are the people who don't like it and why don't they like it? And they don't like it for some good reasons. So we have Warren Buffett, for example, who's been very outspoken. And he said, I don't have any Bitcoin, I don't own any cryptocurrency, and I never will. And that is actually one of his softer comments on this subject. I mean, he really hates it. He believes it will go to zero and that anyone who invests in it is completely foolish. You have his partner, Charlie Munger, who says that he wishes cryptocurrencies had never been invented. And he admires China for banning them. So the argument of those that really don't like Bitcoin or cryptocurrency is because it has no intrinsic value. So if you compare it to gold, gold is a store of value. It has been for a very long time, right? Centuries. And it actually has value, meaning the metal properties can be used. They can be used in jewelry and industrial applications. It's a rare and useful commodity and a store of value. Digital assets is just digital. It's just numbers, right? It's electronic. And so it doesn't have any intrinsic value. And so others would say, well, yeah, but the fiat currency used to be tied to gold. In 1971, it left the gold standard. And so our currency, or a fiat currency, is just based on the promise of essentially of the government. The dollar bill has no intrinsic value other than what you can do with that piece of paper, right? And so they'll say, well, what's the difference between the two? Neither of them have intrinsic value. But there's a significant difference in that the dollar is accepted everywhere and is supported by the federal government, and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are not. There are some significant differences. If you compare Bitcoin to a stock, for example, when you own a stock, you own a piece of a company. And so that company is in business. They generally have a product or service. They have profits. They can pay dividends to those who own those stocks. There is value in stocks. There is value in gold. These things are real things. The digital is really not real, but it certainly is a store of value. Many fortunes have been made, and many fortunes have been lost, and there will be many more fortunes made with crypto. I have no doubt of that. But it's really based on the value of Bitcoin, for example. It's based on supply and demand. Now, there's only a limited amount, right? There's 21 million coins that there could ever be. And so the more demand there is, it makes the price go higher because there's less of it. That demand can change and shift very quickly. And so Bitcoin and cryptos in general are extremely volatile. So you just want to know that you do not want to take money that you really, really need and invest it. If you're going to do it, it should be a small amount that you're very comfortable losing because you might and probably will. So this is a very new development, new technology. And so a lot of the regulators, they don't know what to do necessarily. They're trying to figure this out because our monetary system is based on central banks, and they have a lot of control of what's going on and manipulation of what's going on. And if everything shifted to Bitcoin, they lose control. And so there's definitely a battle. It's very, very new. Regulations that could come along that that could stabilize it in certain ways. Certain regulations could come along that could really hinder it in significant ways as well. You have a country like El Salvador, very small country in Central America, that it is the one country that has made Bitcoin legal tender. And so it is a currency in El Salvador, but that's really a very, very small country, and it'll be interesting to see how that turns out for them. When I think about all this, it really reminds me a lot of the dot-com boom in the late 90s. I was very much in the middle of the dot-com boom. I was actually very heavily invested in one particular dot-com, and let's just say it wasn't Google, it wasn't Amazon, and it wasn't Facebook. So there were a lot of dot-coms that lost money, and many of them that just went out of business. But back then, the internet was so new, and I remember the people who just said, "What is this new thing?" They said, "Oh, this thing's going to go away, and it's going to be a big mistake. Anyone investing in internet companies is foolish." And most of the dot-coms failed, right? But some very, very big and the biggest companies in the world now came out of that. And so it has disrupted the way we do things. It's changed the way we do things. Just think about the conveniences we have through Amazon. It's so easy and so convenient and low cost way to shop. Would we ever really want to go back? So when you think of cryptocurrency, think of it as technology, because that's what it is. It's new technology, and the technology is here to stay. There's all kinds of innovation going on a weekly, monthly basis. It's amazing. There's now thousands of different cryptos out there, each a little bit different, a little bit faster, has a little bit different purpose or value proposition. While I believe 95% of the cryptos will fail, I believe there's going to be some really strong winners. I have no idea what that is or who that is, but the technology is powerful and it's going to be useful. There's a lot of innovation and things that will change down the road. So what is my prediction? When I think of Bitcoin, I think of like AOL, if I compare it to the dot-com time. America Online, it was kind of, they kind of led the way, but they faded away and others came up that were better at business and better at providing services. So I think it's going to change things. I think there's going to be a lot of fortunes made, but I think you got to be extremely careful because you can lose a lot of money. Many folks are saying Bitcoin is going to go to zero. I think it could certainly go up before it goes to zero, but at some point there's going to be something a lot better, and I don't think that Bitcoin has a strong future long term, although I do think cryptos do have a long future. If you disagree with my prediction, I would love to hear about it in the comments. I don't have a crystal ball, but I hope you found this educational, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of the Financial Fast Lane.